that she used to look. What's up? Mortal Kombat comes out this week and we're going and we're super pumped about it, but we're not going to talk about it today. Hey Adam.
What's up?
Welcome back to another episode of the Murph and Mitise show. We are talking to someone today that we hope you get a lot from.
In this next song, you must march around the room. Here we go.
I know what the fuck I'm doing. Just sit down in the chair.
We get super
Ta-da.
excited. Ha ha! Ooh, that could have worked. A little bit of choker thing going on there.
Yeah, I like it. It's a new style.
You know what? Let's go with it.
That's
You
topical
gotta,
for today.
it's new styles and choking. We love this. This is MA 15 plus episode. If you're under 15 years old, please have a parent with you while you watch and or listen.
We can tell it because there's a microphone in the crotch.
Proper,
Exactly.
proper big black microphone.
I am that talented.
You are that talented. Thanks Benji for that. We've got the microphone out. We're ready to go back again.
Yeah, serious. Upgrades again.
Upgrades.
And upgrades again.
Again and again.
Just
And I
upgrade.
feel like it's been a while. It's been a while since we've been here. As in we've been here. You've been a while since you've been here.
Yeah.
Well,
That's true.
we've taken a 2-week little break for
Yeah.
a couple of different reasons.
Yeah.
Nothing too personal, but
Both
just different reasons.
both got the vid and couldn't breathe.
The
Murph got the vid, and then I got the vid, and then now we both can breathe.
we can both breathe well.
Didn't actually get the vid, but we'll go with it. So for people listening out there, we've got Alex Chidiac with us today. Okay.
This is not how it goes. At the beginning, the person in the middle was just like,
We're just gonna say
Are
like,
you, am I involved in this or not?
yeah. And eventually,
Alright.
with an
Can you
introduction.
get acknowledged? Nice.
Long time listener,
I am.
first time interviewee. How do you feel?
It's an honour to be here, honestly, Josh.
Yeah?
It's been a
Can
long
you
time
speak loud
coming.
to the big microphone?
It's an honour to be here.
You'll see those little waves of
Yeah.
audio.
Yeah.
We won't get much going, as you can see while I'm talking, but all of a sudden,
Doing our busing, blah! You see what happens.
And then when he starts laughing as well.
Yeah,
That's
that's
usually when it
huge.
spikes. I'll listen to it at home and then it's just Josh's laugh that I hear
yep.
all the time.
I actually want someone to make it a ringtone.
I told you about that. That was my idea. That's my
That's
thing.
We'll do it.
I will do that.
Someone hasn't done it yet. Someone could be the first, and then your idea now becomes someone else's idea.
Someone's going to take it from this podcast and do it. So it needs
I
to be
can
a
work
thing.
on that. I can do an audio
Can
just
you
if
do
you're
audio?
laughing.
Just you know what?
A montage of laughter.
No,
Yeah.
that's literally what I wanted to see. Like the next episode is just Josh's laugh for about 30 minutes straight. From all the past videos.
I'm sure you've got enough content.
There's enough for like half a day. This is what, 44 now, 45?
This is 45 now.
There's a bit of laughing
Yeah.
This
content.
is
There's
like
a
the
little
Jordan
bit.
return. Hey! Hey!
Nice.
See what we're doing here? We're
I
mixing
see,
everything
I
in.
see.
I'll let you go with some shit because you do your thing.
Well, gee, I know very little about you. So
Lovely.
I found out you just came back from Melbourne.
Yep.
And
That's
you
very true.
won the Golden Boot. Tell us about how many goals you kicked to achieve the Golden Boot for Melbourne City.
So it was a total of 3 goals in the end. Thank you very much. I'll clap myself too. Yeah, I did score the 3rd goal in the last game of the season. I was actually tying in that game.
Was it like the last minute as well?
It wasn't the last minute. Maybe it was like nearly in the 80th minute. So still a few minutes to go, but I took it.
Nice. Well
This
done.
one's for the awards.
Just-
Accolades.
Exactly. I was
Did
like,
you know at that moment you'd won the award?
well, before the game, I was on 2, and I had like won it because everyone else was just on 1. And then one of my teammates scored, so that was like both of us on it, and it was her last game as well.
Did you
I
feel
mean, like
attention?
she's famous now. Riley Dobson got engaged to last game of the season. Like,
Don't-
I
Don't
didn't
look
get
at me,
engaged
bro.
to
I
her. She
know
was
about
supposed
that.
to. Yeah. Well, anyway,
Okay.
But yeah, so like it was like a last game, like she's retired now, and got subbed off at the 70th minute mark, and after she scored, like shortly after she scored, and then I was like, all right, I'm just gonna spoil the party, I guess.
So if you didn't score, is that like 1 boot each?
Pretty much, yeah. Like, we'll like share like half a boot,
Half a boot
and
each.
it would have
Wow.
been nice, like on 2 goals to share.
Did you feel bad, like, at the end of the game when you saw Riley get proposed to and you're like, oh fuck, like this is
stole
just
the
this is
boot
your
off
setup.
you.
I stole the boot off you.
Could have been a more magical night, and I just took that right from her.
Like, not tonight, Riley.
Like-
Done. I love this microphone as well, by the
Exactly.
way.
It's working well.
Yeah, because you can just see how your voice changes.
Intensity.
So in the NBA at the moment, Steph Curry's just on the. You know Steph Curry's?
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
I don't know if soccer crossover.
global. So
He's on this massive tear.
And now I'm in Melbourne as well, you know.
Really?
So you know.
Massive tear, scoring heaps and heaps of points,
Yeah.
doing really, really well. And they've asked him just yesterday or this morning, do you think you're going to win the MVP? And he's like, there's no doubt. No, it's mine now.
yeah.
Yourself, did you walk off that field going, you know what? There's no doubt I've got the MVP of the league because I've scored.
Can you imagine that? If you were made MVP of the league for 3 goals?
That would be incredible.
I'd have to
actually.
cut you. I'd be like,
Like no.
like physically and like.
See, I don't see why it's embarrassing. I think it's still a good thing, right? You're the best scorer in your team. That's still some sort of accomplishment, right?
Yeah. Look, I mean, it was nice. It's just
Can I-
funny.
can I-
Like
You go.
no, I mean, I just found it funny.
Yeah.
For myself, I mean, like I've had seasons where I've scored over 30 goals and didn't get golden boot, and this is the one.
This is the next level up, though, still, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
contextually, you didn't score 33 other goals that you
No.
normally would have.
No.
And that sounds funny.
Yeah.
But different league, different...
Yeah. No, I mean, like I hadn't played also in like a couple years from
Are you
injury.
trying to justify it?
I am going with that.
Well,
I
it
actually
makes
like
sense.
was like, oh, you know what? I should just say I'm just happy to be back playing again in that interview I had
Yeah.
to do. So I was like, okay, I'll just do that. I mean, I am like happy to actually be playing though.
Yeah. How long did you have off? 2 years, you said.
Yeah, it was like 2 years since I'd played a 90-minute game, and then like a year and a half from actually like playing
And
properly
what's
or
this due to?
training. Ankle injury.
Oh.
Yeah, good fun.
You weren't around my ties long enough.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Shit happens.
Yeah.
Shit happens. That's my concern when my athletes go away. They're like,
You get that little like coach's nervousness.
yeah.
What are they going to do over
Yeah,
there?
exactly. How are they going to screw my athletes up?
Wow, that's rough.
Yeah, so ruin
There's
everything.
there's no professional respect here.
Yeah, I trust myself more than anyone else than my athletes.
You know, back in like when I was like 16, 17, I loved Chingy, the rapper. I still love Chingy, the rapper. I just don't put him in the
We
gym.
had a night the other night.
Right? We did.
Chingy
Right?
night.
We had a Chingy night. Right? Before
At the
our-
gym, not
before
anywhere.
our DMX morning. And one of the things that that Chingy had when he first put out his Powerball album, right, back in the day, for those who know, they know, he had a big T-shirt and it just said big, like his thing was like money. It was just, everything was like dollar signs and casinos and shit, and just said "I trust me" on it, and a big picture of his face. And I'm this close to fucking doing it.
You should.
You know?
Yeah, you don't need this. You don't need this. Whatever's happening here.
Whatever this
You
is.
don't need that. You just need
We're
your
matching
face.
today as well. Matching.
We are matching.
Okay, because someone didn't bring clothes.
I did not bring clothes.
Okay.
I arrived at the airport just
Stark naked.
stripped down.
Born again in Adelaide.
I risk.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm stuck now.
That's
This
it,
was
that's
an
it.
impromptu
That's it.
interview.
I did.
I've
So-
got no preparation.
So Murph,
In my head, I had business.
Murph did not know what was going to happen today.
My dog knew before I did.
Your dog did actually know before you did put brownie.
I just,
So Murph didn't know what happened today. Chids flew in this morning.
Mhm.
Went out for breakfast.
yes,
Saw Emily Condon for the first time together in like 4 years.
we embraced.
You embraced. I got shafted. And then I said, hey, what are you doing at like 10? And you're like, I'm on holidays. I got nothing on. And I said, you want to do a podcast? And she was like, yeah. And so I said, okay, cool. And that's how we're now here.
We're here.
Right.
So you're going to need to run this, and I'm just going to pitch in where I see relevant.
Okay. I feel like there's a vibe here that you're ready for. It's not what's going to happen.
No. I don't know what to Spring it on me. Go.
What's been the most challenging thing for you in the last year and a half, 2 years?
The last year and a half to 2 years. A couple things, Joshua. There would have to be.
Alexandra?
I mean, one, the obvious I just mentioned at my ankle injury. But the other would be my new relationship with my partner. Not that it's difficult, not our relationship's difficult, but just how that affects my relationship with my family.
I see.
See where we're going here?
See where we're going here.
See where we're going here?
Just
Flip
do
that.
elaborate now. Because
Do
now everyone's
elaborate.
going, what the hell?
Can you tell us the story?
The story of how it all happened, or
Tell us what happened, you know?
well, basically, it all started when I got dropped from the World Cup, and it was great. So I just spent my first year in Spain. I didn't make the World Cup squad, the 2019 World Cup squad. So I had a couple months back in Adelaide for the first time in like a whole year at that point. And I basically decided I just wanted to really like work on myself. with my mental side and everything. It was a tough year in Spain in general. New team, new culture, new everything, new language. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to really focus on myself for this period. Had some surgery done too. So I got my tonsils removed, my ingrown toenails done. So I was like, really like in a really, really good space, even though like the World Cup was going on. Obviously it was like hard to, you know, fully accept that I wasn't there. Like I'd been really working towards making that squad, but I had come to like a good place with it. So I felt really, really positive, and I was going to be heading back to Spain for another 2 years. I'd signed a contract, so I was in a good mood. And then my whole world pretty much changed. So I don't really like know how to explain the story fully. I can't really give all of the details, but basically like met someone and we kind of just got talking, and then I was like, oh, I have feelings for this person, but didn't really know how to kind of go about it because I'd never really experienced anything like it before.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, but we're going to go next level detail.
Next level. It is a grown woman.
That's a good start.
Old lady, no. She's an old lady. So yeah, like in previous, I hadn't had, you know, any relationships with females, hadn't really had any, like, long relationships in general, because I'd pretty much been more focused on football, and I didn't know how to kind of integrate that with what I was doing. My headspace was always like, I need to focus on football all the time. So I never really let anyone in fully. And this kind of caught me off guard because I was just in a really good place. I was like, this is strange, but I'm going to go with it. It was the first time that I was like, you know what, fine, like, kind of have feelings, literally after, like, a couple days of speaking, which is just, it doesn't happen. So I then, like, FaceTimed her because she was in Melbourne at the time, just make sure she wasn't, like, an old creepy dude, because that's where your head goes when you're just texting somebody, like... and then... Are you a creepy dude? Basically, are you a creepy old man? Turns out she wasn't, which is good for me.
Positive.
It's positive. It's a good start.
It was good.
Good start.
I mean, like,
how did you meet her then? So you still only texting?
Yeah, okay,
skip details. Skip details.
Okay, well, so she works for the Players Union.
Okay.
So, basically, like, I wanted to go to, like, they call it, like, a PFA camp. So, where they get all, like, the footballers around Australia, you go into a camp. And you get to learn about, you know, like, lots of different things outside of football, like avenues you can take and all of that kind of thing. So I wanted to go to that because I thought it would also be a great opportunity to see all my friends from, you know, all other states and stuff too, and just kind of, you know, get a bit of more education while I'm back home.
Of course.
And yeah, so for that they fly over to Melbourne, and you go, like, I think it's like 3 days or something. So we also, like, as footballers, we get, like, personal development managers, so, like, they help you out personally with, you know, if you want to get things like your mental health sorted or, like, stuff with school, you kind of go to them and they'll help you out with that process. So my personal development manager at the time, I got in contact with him to ask him about this camp. So everybody else in Australia already, like, knew about it and was invited, but because they came from overseas, I didn't get an invite, which was really sad about.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's okay. I reached out myself and asked if I could come.
Proactive, I like it.
Exactly. I was like, you know what, I want to be a part of this. And little did I know. So basically he, like, then spoke to Erin, who's now my partner, and was just like, hey, Erin, can you please sort this out? Because she was kind of running it, and I had no idea who she was. Like, I thought, like, she was like a 50-year-old woman that worked at the PFA. No clue.
How old is this? Because you said
she is.
I know. How old is this woman?
She just keeps aging. So she's 28 now.
Okay.
She was 26 when I...
A young woman to us.
Young woman. A young woman to you guys. You guys are the old man. And yeah, and I was like 20 at the time. So to me, old lady. I was just like, old lady. But yeah, I literally had like no idea who she was. I was just like, okay, Erin from the PFA called me, cool. Then after that, later that night, I just remember going onto, like, the PFA website and stalking her, and I was like, oh, she's not an old lady. Cool. After that camp, we kind of, like, decided we wanted to see each other more, but I had, like, a little time limit because I was moving back to Spain. So our relationship kind of happened all within a month.
Condensed.
Like, very condensed. And, like, we spoke about it right from the beginning. Like, obviously she knows football players and everything, and, like, understands my lifestyle. And I was just very upfront. from the get-go about, you know, how I usually am in these kind of situations, how, you know, I'm very, very focused on my football and that's kind of like my aim, and she totally understood everything, and we're just open about like how we don't want to get into something that's not serious. Like she just got out of a relationship herself, so she was not looking for like a fling that to get into a relationship with like someone overseas to do long distance. She was kind of like, I'm looking for something more serious too, and we were just like, we were kind of like hesitant obviously, but we just couldn't help ourselves because we were just so in love. So just
It's a beautiful thing.
I know.
How,
It's a beautiful thing.
how did it develop from text messages into feelings? Like Murph texts me all the time, and even from the beginning,
You can just
never had
tell.
feels.
There's a level of love, but it's
but
like
like,
Just like-
okay.
nothing
But like,
physical.
how did it develop for you? And then how did you then work through that, having been something that has never been on your radar before, or not
Yeah.
even on your radar, but like never been something you've experienced before?
Yeah, what made you sort of go, I'm now gay?
Okay.
Wow,
Abrupt.
wow, we went there.
Abrupt.
We're going
Well,
there.
'cause
This is it.
Because you said
Straight
you've never
up.
been in a female relationship before.
No.
This is the first one.
Yeah.
So before that it was, you've been with men,
Mm-hmm.
and you said not long term.
Yeah.
So you've sort of gone one point, maybe I'm gay.
Yeah. Well,
How
I it
did
like
that change?
yeah. So basically, it was the work stuff to get me over to go to Melbourne and everything. But like then we just kind of kept talking, and like, I mean, her job is like also to, you know, get to know people. Not that she was like doing anything wrong. I'm gonna make her sound so bad.
It's
at her
so
job.
bad.
It's gonna sound
So
terrible.
bad.
Aaron, we hope you don't lose your
I
job.
know. She's like,
We love you.
you're not allowed to
and
do
we'll
this.
support you 100%.
nah, but we genuinely just kept talking to each other like normal humans. Like, we're both very interesting personalities. Like on the first day, we're talking about dungeons. We're talking about like, I was like, I'm gonna keep you in my dungeon in a nice way. Everyone's listening for like,
You know what?
the
This is
actual
great.
Fuck.
This is great.
But I'm not kidding you. I was like,
Welcome
no,
to
I'm
the
gonna
room,
take
Alex
you-
Chidiac.
Take you to a dungeon. But yeah, like it was just like we were talking about our mums being in dance battles against each other. Like it just went. We just kept going.
Does your mum even dance?
She tries.
Okay.
She'll learn
Yeah.
for the battle.
She'll learn. She will learn.
It's
So
a
I'll train
battle,
her
yeah.
up for the battle. Like, but like I hadn't really come across people that would like keep going with my bullshit. Like obviously, yeah, like there's the occasional people, but like she just kept going, and
Yeah.
I was intrigued by that.
Yeah.
Because not many people can kind of handle where my head goes. Like it gets weird. So she just kept firing back, and I was like, "You got some game. I'll see where this goes."
Respect.
But like so I obviously didn't like. I wasn't just like I'm gay in that instant. It was more like I'm interested. I'm
Yeah.
kind of like okay, like I actually like her as a person. So like that's cool. And then that slowly like we just kept talking, talking about like things that were a bit more like personal. Obviously she was asking me about how I felt not being at the World Cup, and I asked her about like what she's been going through, like through her like relationship, her breakup, and all that kind of stuff. And it wasn't like out of this intention to like actually go further with it at the beginning. We were more just like, oh, like we'd probably just end up being really good friends. Because for me, I was like, I don't see myself getting into a relationship with anybody, but also a girl that is in like the football realm as well. And I just didn't want to get anything to be like messy or like screw anything up. I was like,
Yeah.
I want to be a professional as well. And yeah, so that's kind of where my head was at. But we just kept talking, and then we just became like, healthily obsessed with each other, I'd say.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a really good way to
Like,
put it.
it was
Healthily
it was a
obsessed.
healthy obsession. Like, I'd like obviously be really excited to like, get a message from her. Like, I'm like, Josh knows I'm never on my phone. He's just smiling. He's like, I love this.
I'm so in love right now.
He just loves this. But like, I found myself completely glued to my phone, like just waiting to hear back from her. She obviously like had to work. She's preparing for something, and I'm just like, in my little off time, like, talk to me, please.
You know on Facebook where you can like poke button?
Literally.
Wave.
I'm like, hi. No, like, okay, this is one thing I didn't know. So, like, that night, the first night when I stalked her, I went on her LinkedIn page, and I didn't realise that you can see how many times someone goes on it.
Oh, really? There you
Yeah. So I get a message from her, and she's like, why have you visited my page 8 times? 8 times in the one night. That's how,
go.
like...
How did you feel at that exact moment when she asked you the question?
I was just like, I'm just stalking you. It's fine, it's normal. Like, I I sometimes just take things a bit far. Like, I go down to, her oldest photo she ever posted on Instagram. I start liking and commenting things. I literally just met her. But, like, it's similar to what I do with people anyway. And then
Yeah.
that just, like, nothing ever
I
eventuates.
can't even have done that to me then.
Well, I will.
Okay. Thank
You know what? Like, you do it to me, it's fun.
I do.
You don't need to put the hand here, it's fine. Put them both on him.
So yeah, it never seemed like forced or unnatural in that sense. But I guess like I was just in this really, really good mood of like everything in my life's going really good, like really, really good right now. So like I didn't want to like mess it up. Didn't really tell anyone that was going on, obviously, and like, you know, we didn't want to tell other people until we knew what was happening ourselves as well. So like obviously when we met in Melbourne, like everything was like, you know, we had to be obviously super professional, like when we're at the camp and everything. Like we didn't do anything that would have been obviously inappropriate that was there. But afterwards she did like come to Adelaide when she had a couple of days off, and we actually got to spend time together.
Nice.
Which was great. And then she came the following week as well. And this was all like no one knew, like no one else knew. It's just kind of just like a little secret thing. And that's hard in Adelaide as well, because
Adelaide's small.
Adelaide's like this small little place. Everyone's
Yep.
like, ah.
Let's tell everyone about everything we say.
So I took her to the dungeon and just kept her there. And it was just, and I was like, exactly. So yeah, so that was fine. But yeah, literally like in that whole period, I had told her that I loved her. At the airport when she arrived the second time, I was like, I'm just gonna tell her, like, screw it, because I mean, the way that I saw things, I was like, I genuinely do have these feelings, so I'm just gonna say it. And I did it in the most corniest way, where I literally like wrote all these things down on pieces of paper. You know, like have your signs at the airport. So
You
corny.
did that?
I did the signs at
That's
the
like
airport.
the Love Actually thing, isn't it?
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
But my own twist on it, because I'm, you know, a bit more
You're
creative than
different,
that.
Can you paint the picture for us?
Well, actually, we caught up beforehand at a cafe.
I know we did.
Yeah, and then after, like, I had like the pieces of paper there, and I was like, do I tell him?
I've got my part of the story here. I'm just holding back.
Yeah, you're just like,
I'm filling the gaps. So you're
nah.
doing well. So can you explain the?
But yeah, so I was like, all right, how do I do this in like a really cute, memorable way? Because I'm romantic as shit. So that's another.
Yes,
thing.
you are.
Romantic as shit.
Super romantic. So yeah, like one thing that kept coming up that I liked about Erin is anything I said, she'd always ask why, and get like a deeper answer from me.
Cool.
So like it just kept happening. Like I'd say something, she'd be like, "But why?" And then this.
Can you give an example?
Can't really remember back far to that period.
We'll just go with, she said why.
She just kept saying why.
Said why.
She was like, "Why do you like halloumi?" No, it wasn't. It was like more to the deeper things. So like I guess I'd say like I've always felt like, you know, I had to put football before everything else, and she'd be like, "But why do you feel that way?" I was like, and then I'd have to kind of explain that further and further and further until it broke down to like, you know, kind of where it originated from. And then afterwards I'm like, oh, I'm so drained from this conversation, but I like it because it's real.
It's stimulating. But
Yeah,
at the same
exactly.
time.
So with this, I knew she would ask like why when I'd said like I loved her. So like I just.
You know what you just did? You did the 8 Mile strategy.
Did I?
That's what I'm predicting right now. That's what I feel that you're going to do.
Oh.
Keep going. I'll tell you if you did it or not.
You did it with Nikolai on the episode as well. It's great.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
you keep telling your story.
Yeah. So the way that I did it, like I kind of like answered the way that I thought she was gonna answer.
8 Mile strategy.
Yeah.
And you've seen 8 Mile, right?
No, but I'm a bus for whatever it is. It's a good thing, right?
Eminem movie. It's about essentially it's about him.
Okay.
Go watch it. Good movie.
Okay. I'll
But
definitely do that.
his very last battle that he does, not a dance battle, a rap battle,
Okay.
he comes in with a strategy of, I'm going to break down everything this guy's going to say before he even says it.
Yeah. Okay.
Then when it's his turn to say, he's got nothing to say.
Yeah.
Wins the battle.
Nice.
That's what I think you
You
just
won.
did. You won a love battle.
I won the love battle, but like in this case, I wanted a response back, and she didn't tell me she loved me at that point. So that was.
Anyway, that's the end of the story.
But that's the end. No,
Continue
no.
what
Oh, no, I'm
happened.
gonna keep
No, what happened?
she then broke up with me, and I had to. I didn't actually go back to Spain. I stayed. No, so I think the first thing was like, she was just like, hey. We'd always like start a conversation with hey. It's a very common thing. People do it every day. You say hey to someone. I think hey's more fun than hi or hello.
This is all what you said on this piece of paper.
I didn't say that whole bit.
Okay.
I'm explaining to you why I
Okay,
said
cool.
the word hey. And
There's a
everybody
lot
else
of reading.
listening, if you're going to speak to me, say hey first. It's nice. So yeah, started off with that, and then I wasn't supposed to pick her up from the airport, so that was like kind of my surprise of just showing up and being like, I love you, the fun person I am. And I put the page over, and it's like what she would have said, like what are you doing here? And I was like, I have something to tell you. And then flipped over to the next one, just wanted to say, and building up the suspense, like ... There's people walking by. No one cares about
Are they watching? Are they reading?
No one cared. Which
devastating.
And I felt like Erin didn't care either at the time. So I was like, this is a bit painful, but okay.
Push on.
And I was like, I love you. And then on the piece of the paper where it's like where I thought what Erin would say, I had like Erin's response at the top, so she knew it was her. And then hers was like, but why? And then I gave her a letter with my reasons why.
Wow.
Which I had written the day that we caught up. That was the whole thing. So I know, and everybody out there I'm super romantic. If you need tips.
Nice.
And she didn't say anything.
For how long? Obviously she did say something at some point.
Well, we just...
Or are you still waiting?
Kept. No, we're still waiting. I'm hoping one day. So basically, I had to drop her off because I had to be somewhere else that night, which was the reason why originally I couldn't pick her up from the airport. So we just got into the car, we said hello and everything, and she's like, I'm gonna respond to you, I obviously need time. That's fine with me, cool.
Is that awkward drive?
Did you love me or not?
Put the music on.
I'm like, I'll just leave you here. So basically, I went off and then saw her later that night and stuff, and the next day, I had things in the morning. And this is I also had to keep it a secret from my family at this point. So I had things on with my mum planned that morning, so I was like, I'll catch up with you later. She's here for me. I'm like, sorry, I gotta catch up with you later. I gotta hang out with my mum, have some tea. So then, so we got to hang out that day, and I took her up to the Kensington Lookout to be look how amazing Adelaide is, because I'm an Adelaide advocate.
Nice.
And it's such a cute spot, right? Everyone goes there. I've also been there before with past dates. But anyway.
You reuse the same spot.
I reuse the same. There's not many other spots to pick in Adelaide.
That's true.
That's fair.
That's true.
So fine. But we didn't stay in the same spot. We went a bit further because, we do things differently.
Yeah, fair.
And we sat down and I was like, and she was like, this is so she's basically told me that the next person that she told that, she loved them, she wanted that to be it. So she didn't want to, go through the whole, go into another relationship and kind of not really be in it and all this kind of stuff. And, I obviously knew, her deeper reasons why into this because we'd spoken about all of that, which I won't share because
Fair enough. This is about you.
This is about me and my love.
Yeah.
You'll get Erin on the podcast. She was so creepy.
I want to hear the other
She
side.
was so
Erin,
persistently
listen up.
creepy.
Coming on. Right?
So in for that. But yeah, so we sat there and we basically she just told me I am really looking for something more serious, and next person I tell that I love, I want them to be it. So I was like, okay, I totally respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I tried to save my ass and just be oh, when I said I love you, I just I love you, not I'm in love with you, just I love you,
I care
I
for
was
you
I'm
deeply.
not in love with you, just I love you.
Did that work?
No, of course it didn't work. Of course it didn't work. She still pays me out for it now. I'm like, oh no, but I was in love with you. She's like, I know, but you acted like an idiot. But so
that's what love does.
Haven't we all?
Exactly.
Right? Haven't we all?
Oh man. So we decided to I took her to one of the amazing food lands we have here, because that's a South Australian thing.
Hey, Foodland is
Foodland
legit
is
here. It's
freaking
serious.
incredible.
Yeah.
So I think one of them has won an award for the best supermarket ever, in the world. It was I went to.
Really?
I've looked into this. It's a thing.
I believe it's Pasadena.
Is it Pasadena?
Near the cemetery.
I think it's what's the one called?
Fruitville.
Fruitville. I think it's Fruitville.
They're owned by the same person.
They're just
both great.
amazing.
Seriously, they're
oh,
great.
they're so good. So I was like,
I get
Erin,
it, guys. I get it.
I'm gonna take you here,
you.
because I'm gonna make you fall in love with me, basically. So we went there and we got a whole bunch of little things to make a massive board of food.
Nice.
Our favorite food. I mean, obviously bread and oil. That's all you need to fall in love.
Also, on this, I just want to apologise because you did say to me via voice message that when I come on the podcast, I want cheese and tea
Yeah,
in front of me.
I know.
I didn't pass on the message. I apologise.
Too impromptu.
Well, that's okay. So
I can
I'll
get
be
some
coming on
cheddar.
again
Keep
at
coming on
some
again.
point.
Yeah, cool.
So we're
Okay.
okay. This is like the little.
And when you like throwing out like, oh, you bought that cheese, motherfucker. What's
Yeah.
up? Okay, yeah, it's
okay.
coming.
Oh, I had halloumi this morning, so like.
You did actually.
So
you did.
I'm
Okay,
like,
cool.
I'm settling well.
Okay.
So yeah, so we just had like a really nice like kind of last day together. I took it to Mr. Sunshine's actually the next morning.
Holla.
And we had like, you know, it was kind of sad because we had like our kind of goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was going to be going to Spain like during that week. And she obviously has to work, so she couldn't have like taken time off and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we ended up, like we had like a really nice last breakfast. I took her to like the airport. We had like a really depressing airport goodbye. And yeah, right before she went to board the plane to Melbourne, she just like turns around. She's like, "I love you," and I like, I was like leaning against something. I just kind of sunk to the ground. I'm like, "Oh no."
Can you feel it?
Was there a tear?
I can feel it.
Not till after, because obviously like she leaves and then I leave to go to Spain shortly afterwards. So we didn't see each other for.
Just like love you both.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how we started off.
Wow.
Wow.
It was
That's
yeah.
a story.
No, it's movie love. Everyone's like, that's out of a movie. I'm like,
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
no, it's the real stuff.
That's Chid's life.
Exactly.
That's
That's
just
just my life. It's a movie. Like I remember afterwards, I went into like the Rip Curl that they have in the Adelaide airport, and I just started buying things because I was sad.
retail therapy. Do you not like it, Kel?
I have the jumper that I bought. Like still, like I've worn it a couple times.
The
but
love
like
jumper?
the love jumper. After that, I was like, I need something to remember this by. And I was listening to like really sad music on the way home, and like my family had no idea any of this was going on. So like I get home and I'm just like, I'm just gonna go to my room and I'm fine. I'm just crying.
Like head to toe, fresh kicks,
Yeah.
fresh gear. Mom's like, fuck.
I literally like I think I wore like heels that day. Like that doesn't happen. Like not like boots, like boot heels. And like since then, Erin's just like the actual like what were you doing? She thinks I can't dress, so she was kind of
Fair.
And that's I guess. I mean,
The only time I've seen you dressed, besides like training gear and Mitise gear, lovely top, was the Sports Awards, the Julie Dolan 2019.
Oh, you were in Melbourne the other week and I wore clothes.
That was you did it that time, but that was,
Yeah.
but that was the first
It was the
time
first
was
time
then,
after
and the
that.
second time was last week.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm getting better at it.
You are getting much better.
Like Erin's a great influence.
Thanks, Erin.
Like I actually like shower properly and clean my face. I literally, first thing my mum says to me, she's like, "Your face looks better," because I have like lots of acne usually. I'm like, it's Erin's influence. What can I tell you? So obviously since then, do you want to like jump in with a question? Any questions actually before we move on?
I do have
Yes.
one,
Anything is good.
but
Yeah.
I think it's going to be the same one
No,
that
you
you
go.
were leading to
There
anyway.
you
go,
go.
let's do
Ah,
it.
you go. I'm in love still.
When
I'm
Still
feeling
in
it in my heart space, like
heart
a
space
little heart there.
in that left region.
Left wrist, it's like a little tingle. Something's going on over there.
Tingling.
Obviously, this, as you said, the first female relationship. How did everyone react when you told her? How did you tell them? How far into the relationship with Erin did you tell them?
So
All those questions answered.
Yeah, I can do that.
Go
So
deep.
obviously, like I went back to Spain, and the first person I actually told was my new housemate at that time. So she was an American girl, and I was like, "Hey, like let's chat." I basically told her this whole story. Like we pretty much only more like recently met. Like we literally, she like moved into the house, and then we had like an away trip as a team, and we're rooming, and I was like, "This is what's happening in my life." Take that. And I was like, you're the first person I've told. She's like, awesome. Help. How do I do it? I was like, damn it. I need help with this. So Erin and I had spoken about it, and I think she had told a couple of people, because like she's a lot more open with everything. Like she's like accepted her sexuality a long time ago. You know, like she's just pro. I'd say she's a pro level, like world class level, and I'm amateur. Like
You're a rookie.
div 5, 6, like no idea what I'm doing.
When we said Steph Curry, like that.
Yeah, like
That's
That
where
was
just
Erin
like
is.
That's
Steph
what Aaron's
Curry.
like Steph Curry level.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're playing ball in
Div
the
five
streets with
league.
this guy.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying my best, but no.
At least you got a good teacher.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like
most ball players would like Steph Curry as a teacher.
I mean,
I know, I take the best of everything, really. Aim high. So yeah, we'd like spoken about it. And I think Erin, she told her parents, and I'd actually been invited into like a group chat with her, like her parents, like her family, like they're all so lovely. Yeah, like they were just like, welcome to the family, and I was like, okay.
And you'd never met them yet?
No, I hadn't met them. Like I think I'd like FaceTimed them or something, like while I was in Spain. But yeah, literally like they like invited me in, open arms. Like, this is so warm and cuddly. My family's not gonna be like this.
Did you have any inkling of what your family, how would they would respond? How they would respond?
Yeah. Well, so basically, like the way that I've grown up is a very, like, I wouldn't say very Christian household, but definitely those influences growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So like my mum's side, they're Polish, so I went to like Polish church a lot growing up. My dad's Egyptian, and he's like quite religious, even more so
You were
now.
Egyptian Polish?
Polish.
Wow, I'd never
Once
put
again,
those two together.
Best with everything, because we're just so great. But yeah, like, you know, a mix. So, yeah, so basically, like, growing up, all I ever kind of knew, like, or all that, like, I was kind of let to, like, what they were kind of, like, seeming, is like, they wanted me to just always be with, like, end up with a guy.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, I mean, I thought that was, like, pretty much normal as well. And then, obviously, you end up in, like, especially, like, women's football. There's a lot of, you know, like, gay people, like, openly gay. And, like, I wouldn't say I was, like, uncomfortable, but I just kind of was like, okay, cool. Like, I don't really, like, have much to say about that. I was like, I don't, you know, that's, like, not my lifestyle, whatever. I think there was also, like, a lot of bad, I guess, like, stereotypes as well about, you know, like, lesbians in football. And, yeah, kind
that was a stereotype.
Yeah, like, you know, it's just kind of like, yeah, there was, like, a stereotype that, like, you know, like, I got asked heaps when I was young as well. I was like, what's that? Like, I think I, like, learnt one time what that word was. I was like, Mum, like, what's a lesbian? And, like, she was like, oh, yeah, don't worry about it. Like, you don't know.
Don't worry about those people.
Like, we're fine.
They're not like you.
Yeah. They're not, it's not you. That's what it is. Exactly. So yeah, like I never, like I was always like, you know, I have like lots of friends that were in like, you know, same-sex relationships and everything, and I was always like super fine with that. Never really made me uncomfortable. I just never thought to kind of question it myself. Obviously, like you kind of think, but I was like, no, like I wasn't really interested.
You never felt anything?
No. Like I think like, I guess I was, like there was one stage where I was like maybe a little bit curious, but at the same time I was kind of like very disengaged as well. And like I think a lot of that was to do with my focus on football. Like I've always just been so hyper focused, where that's literally the only thing that's on my, like anything else is a distraction. Like even friends as well. Like I've not, like in the past, not been a great friend because like I'll put football before that. Like if I think if anyone's a distraction, they get cut out and I'll just ghost them for a long period of time. It's probably people watching this that are like, that bitch did that to me. Like
yeah,
but, like
she did.
Yeah.
Exactly, I did. Like, and that's just where I was. I was like, I just need to be in my own space. I was like I'm a very like solo person. Very like, I want to achieve my goals and what I set out to do. So that was always the focus. So whenever there was like someone that, oh, like maybe I'm interested in, like that kind of died off very, very quickly because I didn't know how to match that in with football.
Okay.
It's like, how do I do this kind of stuff?
You know what that comes back to? Balancing the plates.
Boom!
You should know what that means.
Plate balancing? Just, no, I have no idea, but
You've
I'm
watched
just
our
assuming.
episodes, right?
Yeah.
I reckon that's like the fourth time I brought that up.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't listen properly. Like Murph talks, I'm like, I can't hear you.
It's just
Speak up.
it's like,
Just-
there's
I
someone
just
else on this
keep
podcast. I thought it was
There's
just you
Murph and
guys.
Mitise, but I only have to do Mitise.
What about those plates? I'm gonna see.
It's about making sure things are balanced all the time. Anyway,
Yeah.
Move
No,
past it.
exactly. And
Move
like
on.
I was like I've always been a very aware person. I was so aware that I prioritize football over everything. At all times. Like even like if I had training that night, I wouldn't do it during the day. I'd basically be like a whole preparation for training. This is like not even at like a very high level. This is just local football. and like club soccer and everything. But just ever since I can remember, it's all I was focused on. And so I think what happened is when, you know, I got dropped from the World Cup and finally like everything kind of just stopped for a second. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like actually now start to think about myself a bit more and dive deep into a few things. And I started doing, like, I went on this, like, I don't know how I found it. It was on some sort of website, and then they like gave you this like little booklet to work through all these like questions. And I still do it now because I found it really beneficial. But I asked you questions on like your beliefs, and one of the questions was like your beliefs on your sexuality. And I went through that, and I was like, interesting. Like, I don't really know what to say here. Like, I feel like I'm more attracted to the person, but I'd never really like come across a person that was a female that kind of just lined up perfectly.
Had you met Aaron at that point?
No, this was before that.
Before that.
So before that, when I was like in Spain, like Spain was a lot of mental work for me. Like, most of my days was like, I'm literally by myself. Like, I need to do something with my time and really learn about myself in that sense too. So I did a lot of personal development while I was in Spain. And then when I didn't make the World Cup squad and came back to Australia, I just continued that and I kind of revisited it. And I was like, interesting. So like, while I was looking at all that kind of stuff, then Aaron came up and I was like, huh. So it kind of just flowed on.
Yep.
And then, yeah, when I went back to Spain, it was just kind of like, obviously I'm back in that environment that I was before when I was working all these things, but things are a lot different now because I have this like amazing support in Australia. And I didn't know how, like, so we both didn't know how that was going to go because I'd told her before, you know, like everything's all good at the start and I seem like I'm great, and then I'll just back off and distance myself. And Spain is like the perfect way to do that in a sense because you're on the opposite side of the world. It's easy to like have that distance.
Yep.
So I felt like that would be an important time to really get an understanding on how serious I was about this, and ended up like Aaron and I were like, we're not going to become an official couple. Like, we're not committing to each other until we're both all in.
Yep.
Like, and so that didn't happen until I think it was August, and I got back to Spain in June. So it was still like a little bit of time where we were still like talking, working things through, but I basically had to come to the conclusion. I was like, you know what, like, no, I'm all in with this relationship. I'm not gonna, you know, like, I had to work through things of like, do I want to like explore being in a relationship with a guy now that I'm like a bit more confident in myself or whatnot, and I had to really dive in deep to that kind of stuff, which was very uncomfortable.
Not bad.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, looking back at like all my interactions with like male relationships and stuff, like even the ones that I tried in Spain, like people that were following me on, I made like a little side Instagram. And I think like, you know where I'm going with this. And like, literally the first day when I get there, there's this like Spanish pool boy outside of my like window. And I'm like, this is a Spanish stream right here. Like, he's just like super ripped, hot Spanish guy. I named him Fernando.
He was hot.
He's really hot. Like, and I'm not like, it's not I'm not attracted to guys at the moment, like in general, but this guy was like next level. Like, oh. So like that was like my first season, right? So I would like film him from my, literally I had nothing else to do. Like, you'd think I'm a professional footballer. No, like I stalk this man that I called Fernando. I named him Fernando. Like, I even went to the extent of downloading Tinder to see if he was on it. Because I'd never had Tinder before. I made like a fake account just to see if I could find his real name and then stalk him elsewhere.
Do you know a fake account is actually a real account, right?
Is it?
Can you have a fake account? Isn't it just an account?
It's an account used for other purposes.
Yeah, just a little.
Not that I've ever
real
been
account,
Tinder, so I don't know.
fake purposes.
Basically. Yeah. Anyway, he wasn't there. I couldn't find his beautiful face anywhere. But yeah, like I was like full on, like each day, like I figured out the times he was at the pool, like
Full stalk.
I like full stalk.
Nice.
Like spoke with some friends and I was like, okay, this is how I'm gonna get his attention. I'm gonna pretend to be drowning because I hate water. Like, he's gonna come save me. I literally planned it. This is all I had time to do.
Your life is a movie, really.
Yeah, if you like dive in deep, it just gets worse and worse. Like, my experiences are terrible.
Like, Aaron thought like looking at a LinkedIn profile 8 times was bad. Oh, girl.
You're not Fernando.
No, you're not Fernando.
Like, oh man. Like, I mean, honestly, the extent that I went to with Erin as well was, like, quite bad. But, yeah, anyway. It was healthy. It was mutual. It was a mutual obsession. So it's fine.
Yeah.
But this was one-sided with Fernando. And there was, like, when summer ended, he stopped being there. And I was crushed.
Devastating.
Like, I felt like we broke up. And it was honestly, like, it was quite hilarious. Like, the next year when I came back, we were in a different apartment. And I, like, go to, like, the shops. It was literally next door to my apartment to get some things. And the guy that was, like, my cashier, his name was Fernando. Didn't look anything like that Fernando, but I was like, oh, Fernando's back. But I was with Erin, so I was like, I don't have feelings for this Fernando. I like Erin. And it wasn't like a conflict at all, but it was just funny. It just came full circle. But anyway, I worked through all my shit.
Yeah. That's a nice little sidetrack.
A nice little Fernando
you don't know his name still?
Still don't know his name.
Never spoke to him?
No, never spoke to him.
Just videography and Tinder, fake Tinder.
Just like fake. Literally the Tinder lasted like a whole of 5 minutes to try and see if he was there.
Okay, then out.
And then I was like, okay, delete this account. I'm done.
Just picture signs it up. She's like, nope. Fuck!
There's no one else in this area. I'm like, he's down there. Where is he?
Yes.
Yes, that was my little stalky time. So
Cool.
I stalk a lot. Back on track.
Like, what uncomfortable questions did you have to ask yourself in that situation that you had to, like, you know, talk about sexuality or think about sexuality, your values around this, understanding that, like, how deep did you go and what questions do you have to consider? Because these are things that obviously we have no idea about, but there are thousands, if not millions of girls out there going through the same sort of shit, right?
Yeah.
That would have either gone through it, or potentially would be going through it, or are going through it.
Yeah.
But girls and boys, exactly. Yeah.
I think what I found difficult was just like the perception of my family would think.
Mm-hmm.
That was definitely the hardest because, like, I know, you know, like everybody has, you know, the right to their own opinion and everything, and I completely get that. And my family, you know, have since, like, they would prefer me to be with a man. Like, they feel like that's never going to change. Still to this day. Like, they haven't actually met Erin yet. We've organised this kind of trip while I'm back for them to finally meet, which is going to be lots of fun. I'll come back afterwards and see how that happens.
We'll have a cheese board ready.
We'll have it, yeah, just to console me. But so basically, when I told my mum, I did it over text in like that year's November. So we got like official in August, and then like September passes, and like November I was like, you know what, she needs to know. Because my mum's like basically like we're very, very close. We're like best friends. We always talk about everything except for this bit. But I found it really difficult keeping that from her, and I was like, you know what, I'm really happy, I'm ready to tell her, but just couldn't do it to her face. So instead, she knew about Erin, just thought that we were friends, because I'd like mentioned her, because I don't want this to be some random surprise, like, hey, there's this chick, like, I just kind of would mention her, I'm like, oh yeah, like, you know, we talk quite a lot, like, we're really close now, and all that kind of stuff. And I feel like she did have a feeling, just kind of didn't want it to be, you know, true. So like, I was like, hey mom, guess what? I'm like kind of in love with Erin.
That's how you wrote it? Kind of in love?
Literally. I'm like, oh yeah, and I was like, hey mom, like, guess what? With an exclamation mark. And she was like, what? I was like, I fell in love with Erin. And she was like, what? And I called her and she was like, oh, I can't talk right now. Like, I was like, okay, we'll talk later. And like, she wasn't, you know, like really mad and angry. She kind of like had like a, you know, that feeling that maybe something was going on. But yeah, you know, she just kind of made it clear like that's not how she views relationships and all of that kind of stuff. And I get that, because that's how I grew up thinking as well. I was very closed off, but I mean, I'm literally in a very open environment every day when I go to like football training and stuff. Like everything's super, super open. So it's complete different contrasts. And I think going to Spain also helped me with that, because I wasn't at home. Yeah. You know, I didn't have to go home and kind of be in that headspace where I'm like, okay, no, like this is how things are. Like even, I feel like I felt super uncomfortable to talk to my parents in general about relationships with guys. I'd always keep that secret because I felt like I had to kind of portray that football was the only thing that was on my focus. Because I just felt like I wanted to be so high achieving at that and like, you know, to be fair, things were working the way that I was doing it. I just wasn't, you know, exactly super happy all the time because of the way that I went about it, but I kept getting results, so I was like, I'm just gonna keep going with it because that's working, that's healthy. So yeah, I think lots of my struggles, I was literally thinking I'm either gonna like lose my relationship with Erin or lose my relationship with my family. That's how it felt to me when I was in Spain thinking about it. So I was literally just like getting on my nerves a lot, and I didn't know how to kind of work through like how like I felt for Erin and like why it was so negative, why it was always a negative spin for me. Like everything with Erin was so amazing, and then I'd always like be like, no, but like I can't be with her because of my family. Like that's the reason that was holding me back, and I just couldn't get past that. And you know, obviously it started to affect Erin a bit because she was like, you know, I don't want to be in a secret relationship. Like, she wanted to be with me, and obviously like I kept saying like I want to be with you. Like I'm obviously very like forward, like I love you on a piece of paper in the middle of an airport, like you know, and like the way that we're speaking about things, you were speaking about the future, speaking about planning things like very early on in the relationship. So like you know, if this is going to work, it's going to have to be like very open the way that we do it. So yeah, when I did the whole thing with my mum, it was a weight off my shoulders, but it still affected the relationship. So that affected me as well. It was half easier because I was in Spain. I didn't have to deal with it every day, but I also just felt like that was difficult. And my mum couldn't tell my dad because he's more against it. And we didn't want to have to, I didn't want my mum to have to deal with all of that and that kind of energy in the house as well, when I'm literally just like, I'm on the other side of the world, have fun, like I'm gonna be sleeping when you have this conversation. Like I didn't want to do that. So, and she didn't want to do that either. And when I told my brother, he just made jokes about scissoring, so that was hilarious.
As a brother should.
As a brother should.
Yeah.
He was just like, wait, so, and I was like,
so he was okay with it. That's his.
yeah, like he was shocked. He was genuinely shocked about it. But at the same time, like he's like that makes you happy. Like
cool.
You know, like he was like supportive, so that helped. But yeah, it was hard with my mum more so because I just didn't know how to like connect with her on that same level. Like I felt like there was just this big kind of divide from then. Whereas like obviously she still loved and cared for me so much and would like still check in, but it just wasn't the same, and you could tell that relationship was a little bit strained now because of my new relationship. And I hated that, but I just avoided that as well because I couldn't do anything while I was in Spain. Like I spent literally like 9 months there. I've barely been able to be home. Like literally now is going to be the most time I've spent home in a couple of years. So yeah, there just wasn't that time. But when COVID hit and I came back to Australia, you know, like how there's like how Adelaide was like, we don't want anyone. So when I arrived in Melbourne, did the 2 weeks quarantine, and then I was going to have to quarantine again if I went to Adelaide, which was my original plan. But I was like, well, I don't really want to quarantine again. Like I had to, at that point my ankle was still really messed up, so I had to get cortisone injection and start doing rehab, and I thought I'd better start that now instead of wait another 2 weeks, and that's a whole month. So and then also like, I mean, Erin was in Melbourne, so it just made it easier. So I like literally lived with her for, I think it was like a total of 3 months with her and like her housemates and stuff. And that was the longest that we've actually been able to spend together, sort of like in a relationship, which was good. It was amazing. Like we had a lot of fun also in that house, and great housemates as well. So that was a really fun period that I also like in my life didn't really get to experience those kind of things. Like a bit of normal life, like with no pressure of football, because I was injured. I was definitely not going to be playing, so I just got to kind of live a bit. And I did end up sneaking into Adelaide.
I wasn't sure if you're going to bring it up or not.
I'm like,
are you going to bring it up?
Will I get in trouble?
I think it's been done now.
I know, it's been done.
Okay, go.
So there was still these rules on if you like get into Adelaide, like you were now able to fly, but you had to quarantine once you landed in Adelaide.
Okay.
So I think was it like 10 days or something?
Yeah, the quarantine was 2 weeks.
Oh, it's like another 2 weeks.
So basically it was like you go there, and if you're flying in here, you got to be here for 2 weeks before you can do anything else.
Yeah, but it didn't have to be in a hotel. It could be at home.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it was like I was like, okay, I really want to see my family before I go back to Spain again, which was going to be like another year. So I called up the COVID hotline. Technically, I did the right things. I called up the COVID hotline and I was like, hey, I want to go like to Adelaide, but only for 4 days. Is that okay? Because the rules weren't very clear on like you have to do 2 weeks. It was kind of like people are going into Adelaide and they have exemptions to then leave the next day. So I was like, okay, like I'm just wondering, you know, what I could do. And they're like, no, it's fine. Like honestly, you just book the flight, just tell them where you're going to be, and then that's okay. And I spoke to 2 different people from the COVID hotline. It's a state. It's a state. They're going to come looking for me now.
We know you are.
Yeah, so I arrived. So I was literally like, I planned like a 4-day trip, 4-day mini trip, and arrived in Adelaide, and like there's these like mad like glass screen doors up, like everybody's going through this like line
This
of like
was like middle lockdown.
yeah, like declaring like where you're gonna be for the 2 weeks and stuff. I was like, I'm here for 4 days only. They're like, what are you talking about? I was like, yeah, like I've literally like booked these flights. I was allowed, like I shouldn't be allowed to book these flights, but they cleared it and everything. So I was like, okay. And they said, you know, like you got to do like your 2 weeks and stuff. Like you're gonna be going directly to wherever you're doing the 2 weeks now. And I'm like, like my mum's here to pick me up, and they're like, you can't have anyone pick you up. Like, what are you talking about? Like, that means they have to quarantine for 2 weeks. I'm like, they work though, so. So then I ended up having to like call the police in Adelaide and explain my situation. I was like, I have to be back in Melbourne in 4 days, so I have to get on a flight to Spain soon, and that's for like work. So I got kind of an exemption from then.
Yeah.
My parents didn't end up having to quarantine or anything from that, but I literally just had to stay at home.
Yeah.
And not have any visitors.
Table tennis in the front yard is not visiting.
No, we were literally like that. But that's like over 1.5 meters away.
It was definitely 2 meters and a bit. And
Yeah.
Was there a hug when you rocked up?
No.
Nah, just a stare.
It was
Not
a
even
stare. It was like this. It was like I walked in. I hadn't seen her for what, a year or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I walked in, and she was there on the front yard playing with Daniel, and I was like this, and she went.
Yeah.
And then Daniel kept playing, and I was like, bro. Fuck off! I want to play. I'm here to play.
Daniel's my brother.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
Just Daniel.
Just-
Who's Daniel? Where's Fernando?
Daniel!
Bring Fernando back.
Anyway, so then they played for a bit. I'm watching. I was chatting like it was like literally end of the table, and then I
Yeah.
was like away from everyone.
Yeah, and of course we had face masks and gloves
Whole
on,
works.
and
did the
hand
whole- yeah.
sanitized
There
every.
was actually a big perspex ball. We couldn't even hit the ball across to each
It's
other.
like
No.
I had a ball,
We're just
and then she's had a
pretending.
ball.
Yeah.
And I'd hit my ball, and she'd hit. It was
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that's how it was.
Yeah.
For the record.
Yeah, we had the same thing here
This
with.
is our statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't even mention the name.
No, you can't mention no names. You
We did
can't.
the same sort of thing.
But yeah, that's another
All
side
legal.
story. Yeah, it's all legal,
Everything
exactly.
we've done is legal.
So that was the first time I'd been home with both my mum and my brother knowing and like seeing me in human form. But like,
Compared to.
well, that
Digital?
past form, it was just different. I was like, because I just didn't, like, I just had this, you know, like, I felt like they thought that I was a different person.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it was coming across. And I was like, I'm like the better version of myself now. Like, I'm a lot more confident, like, all of the good things that have come from the relationship and everything. I was like, I want to show you guys that. But my dad still didn't know at this point. So we just had to, so I still kind of, like, when I came home, I didn't enjoy it as much because I felt like I was kind of compressed again. And I was like, I have to be not myself.
This was about June, wasn't it?
This was,
Before you left.
yeah, right before I left.
So we're talking August was relationship, November mum knew, and now this is next.
Yeah, this
June.
is like the next.
Like it's almost a year on.
Yeah, so
6
almost
months
like
on.
a, yeah.
6 months on.
Yeah, so like like nearly like a year into our relationship, and then like when I got back and I was like back living like with Aaron, and like my dad only thought like Aaron was like my friend, really generous friend. Like he kept saying, you sure you're like paying rent and stuff? I'm like, yes, I'm paying rent, like I'm being a good girl. Got my own room and everything.
We've all been there.
Yeah, like, good girl. But yeah, then I, speaking with my mum about it, I ended up getting her to speak to my dad about it, just to tell him, and then I did not hear from him for about 3 months. And like our relationship isn't like, very talkative to begin with, but this was like radio silence, and like, when I got back to Spain, I was like, I really want to, sit down and talk about it. I'm still the same person. Just want to, like, get that across. If you have any questions, I'll answer them. Like, I wasn't influenced in any sort of way. Like, this is just this is just kind of what happened. You know, I'm not, like I feel like I'm really, really happy. I'm not, you know, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, they didn't want to have that discussion. Like my dad was still in the processing phase, and like my mum, you know, like she was getting better, but still struggled to, like, I couldn't really talk about it openly. So like I had the complete contrast when Aaron's family was like super, super open, super happy about it. You know, I felt like a part of their family. And like even when I came home for Christmas, actually, in one part of that as well, and I went to like go meet her parents, and everything was just super lovely. But yeah, I just struggled with the whole fact that, like, you know, it's just not what it's like for my relationship, and I don't know if it'll ever get there, where it's just going to be like, that's totally fine. Like, I'm super happy. Like, we're now living together in Melbourne. Like, Aaron's bought a place, and we just like live together with a crazy cat. That's a crazy foster cat. The most stereotypical lesbian thing ever. But anyway, literally, like, I'm like, this is just getting better. But yeah, it's still hard for that to be accepted. And I guess one of the main things before I like head back overseas again to play is I just want to make sure that, you know, Erin gets to meet my family. They get to meet Erin as a person instead of just me talking about her and stuff. And then hopefully things will be nice. We don't know yet.
So you're talking to your dad now, though?
It's mainly just like football stuff. He hasn't brought up any of the relationship or any of that, which is difficult. But like, I know obviously, like, I'm not the only one that's been through something similar to this. It's a very, very common thing. So that's, I guess, comforting in a way. I'm not the only one. Go
soon when he meets?
I have no idea.
No?
Go either way.
No. Reckon she's going to pull out the why?
Why? Who knows? I'm like, Erin, just behave yourself. Like, just tone down your strangeness. I need them to think that you're like a together human. So I was like, just be super like professional, and then you can show how weird you are a bit later. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
One thing I found interesting was when we were talking about it, you say when you were first going through like the feelings, and you know, you said to me about I didn't even resonate with gender. You know, it was just this person resonates with me, which is fantastic. You know, and only recently you've told me about all the stuff that you were doing for yourself, like podcasts you were listening to. I don't know if it was books you were reading as well, just on how to process and accept where you're at. I think. Can you talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like similar in that like period before. Even after Erin and I committed to each other, obviously, like, it wasn't just like, oh, I'm fixed now. I was still like kind of in two places about it. I mean, I even nearly half broke up with her in Spain. It was the most stupid thing ever. I tried to be my whole distant self, and she was like, what are you doing? Like, I literally just flew from Australia to Spain to see you, and you're trying to do this. I was like, I'm sorry.
She shut you down on a breakup.
Literally, like, don't. And I was like, you know what, it's the most stupid thing I've done. Like, I was, like, so distraught from that I could even try and do that to her. So I think it was after she left and after I had that kind of mini scare to myself, I was like, clearly I still have things I need to go through. So that's where, like, obviously I told you about the podcast and stuff. I started listening to podcasts with, you know, female athletes who are in, like, openly gay relationships, just to kind of hear them speak about the struggles that they went through. And, like, I felt so connected because it was so similar. Like, some people have, like, literally lost, you know, their connection with their family, but they wouldn't have it any other way. Like, it's because they're doing what's true to themselves. And that's what makes them, you know, that's what makes them happy. At the end of the day, like, I'm not going to break up with Erin just to make my family happy. Like, I'm still, you know, the same person anyway. Like, so I think after hearing that stuff, and it's like, it's stuff that you think that you should, like, know already, but just kind of, you know, like, no one really knows how hard it is. Like, I'm making it sound a little bit lighter than what the situation is. Like, it's a lot more intense. And, like, nothing against my family. Like, that's just the way that they were brought up. Like, I'm not just gonna, you know, go be like, you have to change your views completely. Like, it's more just, I like them to just accept it. This is the way that I want to live. But not gonna try and get them to change things or whatever. But yeah, for me it was more like I just need to figure out for myself what my values are, what my core beliefs are about this. And then that helped me so much. Like listening to other people speak so openly about it, about what they went through and, you know, how much like their relationship with their now partner like made them so much of a better athlete as well. And that's one thing that I was always like curious about. And then I started playing after my injury and I was like, I'm way better than I was before. Like, and I felt way better. I felt more supported. I wasn't so alone and in my head. I kind of just felt like there was so many benefits from the relationship, but there was always that one thing that was dragging me down. Whereas like after hearing other people talk through it and even, you know, like reading stories, like I like really started to like research the crap out of everything and kind of get more of an understanding of why am I feeling this way. Why is there that like disconnect? Why can't I just accept that this is who I am? Like, you know, when I told some of my friends, like they were just like happy for me, like how the reaction, you know, should be, but in your head you just think it's a super dark thing that's gonna happen. It's like, oh, now I'm gay, like now everything changes, your whole life changes, people see you in a different way and all that kind of stuff. And like I didn't want to be worried about it, but there was just that like subconsciously I was, and it was really like eating away at me, mainly from the family side of things. So it was like a good few months of really like diving in deep to, you know, analyzing what other people's stories were, and that kind of got me to a better stage where I'm like, no, I'm really like, I'm happy with where I'm at, and I'm okay with that disconnect from my family for the meantime, because my relationship is really like more important than that at the moment. And it only kind of changed more recently again, because that's when I was in Spain. Like we did obviously long distance for, I think it was like a year and a half. Like most of our relationship was long distance. But now like coming back to Australia and playing here, but like being in Melbourne and my family's in Adelaide, like it's a lot closer than it was before. So that's been difficult more recently, where it's like I still, you know, I'm more connected with Erin's family still than I am with my own. But we're like right here together. So it's kind of working through that now, which is I guess why this trip to Adelaide in itself is going to be so important for me to like feel like I can be myself around my family again and kind of have that nicer association. So I don't, you know, want to just hide away again and want to escape. Like I actually want to, you know, come home and be like, look at my amazing like girlfriend and life and self, like, you know, look at what great things are going. So I guess that's where I'm at with that.
Were there any stories or podcasts you listened to that actually kind of solidified it for you? Like, okay, I remember this story from this person, or this came up in stuff that I was doing, because you are also a prolific writer, you know, so you write all your stuff down. So is there anything that kind of came up that you've then written down that you can remember that allowed you to kind of go, you know, like, okay, cool, it kind of fits well now, rather than just being like, you know, slowly, or was it more of a, okay, everything I hear is a little bit more?
Yeah, I think it was like, well, it was actually Erin that got me onto this podcast called, like, Don't Tell Me the Score, and it's, you know, how do they relate, you know, values in life to, like, sport in general. So get, like, athletes on or people on in general, and, like, you know, a topic could be, for instance, like, respect or vulnerability, and, like, he kind of dived in deeper to that through that person's career as well. And I can't remember the exact names of the athletes. We were talking about this the other day. I know there was definitely a netballer and a swimmer that were both interviewed about it, and just how like alone they felt, not being able to be themselves in their own sport as well. And they even like, I think one of them even mentioned how open like soccer is in that sense, and it kind of made me realize like actually I do have a bigger support network than I think I do. I don't need to be so afraid of letting other people in, because everyone else kind of around me, like majority, have been through it themselves. And it's such a common thing. And I think it made me realize, like, you know, before I understood the power of, you know, conversations and having real conversations, being vulnerable about things. And I was a lot better at doing that in every other subject than this. And so it kind of made me question, like, I was like, you know, I need to have these deeper conversations with other people. And so I obviously, like, I opened up with my roommate about it a lot, and that was like, it was uncomfortable, because I'm like, now she knows all my shit and we live together.
Oh God, what's she gonna think of me?
No! But I think from doing that, you just realize how, you know, like they you know, it might not be the exact same situation for them, but they have something that like really affects them in a different way, and you kind of connect through that. And I had an Italian teammate as well, and her family, like in Italy, it's very, very, like they're very against same-sex relationships.
Big time.
Very, very against it. And so she was telling me about, you know, her story, and this is like one of my teammates and everything, and like she'd been in a relationship for a long time, and her family like still don't even acknowledge her partner, and like hearing that kind of thing, but she's still so like content with herself. Like that's still a struggle, but herself, she's okay with it. Like she can get through things completely fine. It's not like it derails her every day. Like that's something, she's accepted it. She's not going to change the way that they think or anything, but she's still going to be true to herself. And she's like had, like, I think she's spoken to like media in Italy about it, which is a huge thing, being like very, very open, which is like friggin' amazing, like super, super ballsy to do. But like that's who she is, and she like shows that. And I think being around people like that inspired me to be like, you know what, like there's no point me hiding and kind of suppressing who I am just for what I think my family think about me. Like something I don't even fully know, because we still haven't had that conversation. So like still waiting for it. But like obviously that's a thing that you don't want to do on FaceTime. You want to have that human connection.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
be like I'm talking to you right now, you know. And that's why it was so important for me to like, after, you know, going, like I'd go on so many walks by myself. Walking just helps me think, and I'd just listen to podcasts and kick a ball around, and then I'd like kind of just afterwards go home, like write in my book, kind of write my feelings and thoughts down, and then I'd go have a conversation with my teammates. Like it was kind of very like therapeutic in a sense, to work through all of that. And it was interesting doing it with other people's different, like, you know, histories and backgrounds as well. I mean, like my team was so multicultural. Like, you know, I spoke with one of my Mexican teammates about it as well, and she still hadn't told her family after years and years, and she's like, I think she's 32 now.
Yeah, wow.
And like I was just like, you know, and all the advice that I've been hearing is like, you don't want to live your life that way. There's no need to do that. Like you would be surprised the amount of support that you actually get when you open up about it, and you feel comfortable with that and kind of embrace it instead of just letting it eat away at you. So I think from all of that, I was like, you know what, like I'm just going to be very straightforward and open with things, and kind of made that decision to just like, I didn't obviously do this big announcement that I'm like, hey, I'm with Erin now.
Pops out of a cake like,
welcome me. Like, I didn't do all of that.
Try that with your dad, maybe.
But you know, honestly, I think that might be a great thing
It could.
to do. Just walk up.
With Erin. Erin
Yeah.
can do it.
okay.
Yeah.
This is Erin.
Exactly. Welcome. Like, so yeah. Great.
Think about it, Erin. Think about it.
I know. She'd be like, oh gosh, no. So, you know, we've obviously like, yeah, and like from her perspective as well, like, you know, it's not comfortable for her to like have that kind of tension. I mean, like she knows it's harder for me, but it's also like, you know, I want it to be like a nice, I want her to like want to come to Adelaide and like spend time, not feel like she has to be hidden, or, you know, she's going to be hated the whole time she's here and stuff. Like I just want, ultimately I just want my like family to know that she's like a nice person, and then we'll go from there and kind of build from that. But at the moment, it's hard when they haven't actually met her, and that's kind of the circumstance of our relationship too. So like I can't, you know, say that my family's been super against it. This whole relationship made it really difficult on me. That's not been the case. It's more been, it hasn't been something that we could have been open from the beginning.
Yep.
Didn't have that opportunity, like living overseas and having those experiences. So we'll see what happens now, and it'll be cool, fun times.
It's been a big, so you go.
I've got one last question. I think it's a good wrap-up question.
Okay.
So there's, as you said, I think you said it, there's thousands, if not millions, of boys, girls out there go through the same thing and maybe trying to figure out how to do it. You just mentioned a few little things there. Mm-hmm. What's your advice, what you've learned so far from what you've gone through? What can you tell them out there if they're listening?
Mm-hmm.
No.
For those who are listening, because there'll be people listening that'll be in the same situation.
I think the main thing that I would say is to really like take time out for yourself and figure out, I guess, how you feel about it to begin with. Like even if you like take some time to start writing and just write your feelings out, you don't have to like punctuate it properly. My writing is an absolute mess. Some words definitely not spelt correctly either. But you just have to write and get your feelings out on a page. And I found that really, really helped me. And other things are, is if you want to hear other people's stories really impacted me. Like that connection, and then once you hear other people's stories, maybe if you feel comfortable to speak about it to somebody that you're close with, and you'd be surprised, like one conversation can honestly change everything. I mean, that happened with Erin. Like one day I'm this little straight girl, and the next day I'm not. So
Wow.
Little
straight
girl, and there's an old
straight
creepy
girl.
woman that comes in at
I'm like,
minute,
ooh.
not little straight girl. Wow.
But yeah,
So
no,
that's
it's
how
been,
it works.
yeah, exactly. Honestly, like, yeah, I've just found that one conversation can honestly change so much for you in any given day. So yeah, I think that would be my little advice. But yeah,
I think it's the question of and the process of having those uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for a while now. It's been a constant thing that's going to come up. I think with all of us over the last 2-year period.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, we've brought it up before. Well, I talked in the last episode about conversations with my dad about my grandfather and things like this and whatnot. And I think the single greatest change that I have made is trying to be comfortable with those uncomfortable conversations. But like you've nailed it, you have to be comfortable with yourself first and accept the fact that whoever you may be talking to is going to have their own thoughts and feelings, and you have to be then comfortable with what they say and what they think at that time, and then hopefully you can then move forwards, or you can then move past that, or whatever that outcome may be. But you don't know until you're comfortable first with yourself to say, hey, I need to have this conversation, and then they need to be willing to accept to hear it, and then you can then decide what that looks like. Because without that, you really have nothing. You know, like you said, you feel hiding away. It's a part of you can't actually explore. And the thing is, parts make up the self, right? And if any part is like hidden or suppressed, whatever, you can't be the best you can be. Yeah. You know, and that's what you're finding now, which I think is absolutely fantastic.
Well, that deserves.
You know that deserves?
Where's the confetti?
There's a
I need confetti.
And a cake!
Yeah.
And a cake! And a cake!
Where's Erin?
Shit! God damn, where's Erin? Where's Erin? You'd be so funny if she just walked in and you'd be like, oh, what's happening? It's not happening.
So happy.
Next time, sorry. On that note, we are out! Bye!